F24 discovered that my ex M22 cheated on me with 2 other girls on Valentine's Day and they're still stalking me. So, the story begins 3 years ago. I actually met my ex at work, as we were hired in the same batch while I was studying in another country. He started flirting with me, and since I had just gotten out of an abusive relationship, I thought he was nice and polite, even though he was not my type at all, both personality and looks-wise. We quickly got into a relationship. He didn't want to acknowledge that we were a couple, though all our coworkers knew, and we acted as a couple. For the end-of-year celebration, we decided to go to another city to celebrate it. It turned out I had to pay for most of the trip because he was scheduled fewer hours at work due to his questionable work ethic, flirting with our coworkers and customers with more or less suggestive comments, but I thought it was okay since we planned to do small trips later, so I thought maybe next time he would contribute more. We finally made our relationship official after 6 months, but he insisted that we change our first day to New Year's during our trip. Every summer, I go back to my home country to spend some time with my family. Exceptionally, I planned a trip to somewhere in Asia to see my sister for 1 month, and I stupidly thought it was a good idea to invite him. He just needed to get his plane ticket and buy groceries throughout our whole trip. After booking the plane ticket, the airline called him to ask him to reschedule his second flight as his layover was too short, but he had to pay extra. At this moment, the company didn't renew his probation period, and he was jobless, and he refused to ask for his mom's help. Out of love and surely out of pity, I stepped up to pay the charge in advance, asking him to pay me back and making sure to pay for the groceries plus some restaurants during our trip. My plan was to go back to my home country for a few weeks before flying to my sister's, where I could see my ex and my sister again after a long time. My ex and I agreed on a long-distance relationship during the short period when we wouldn't be physically together, as it would be a small trial for the real deal when I was going to go back for good. Surprisingly enough, despite my doubts due to past experiences, it went well because it was a short period, now that I think about it. Because he started a new job with an early shift, I gave him the keys to my apartment as I was closer to downtown while he lived in the suburbs, only has the condition to clean after at the end he let food rot inside my fridge. Fast forward to the trip, I had a lot of mental breakdowns as I hadn't seen my sister for 1 year, and we wanted to do a lot of things together, but I did my best to comply to both of them. She didn't like my ex, and he wanted to monopolize me and gaslight me into thinking that my sister and I were too close for sisters. The man made me cry and have panic attacks outside, where everyone could see and judge, while he was on his phone, just waiting for me to stop making a fuss about small things. I had to stop my sister several times from fighting him as we were only at the beginning of our trip. At the end of the trip, I asked my sister if I could spend the last day with him to make up for the days I didn't spend with him or give him my full attention. She kindly said yes, but warned me about this relationship as she knew he wasn't what I was wishing for in a significant other for my future, given his personality, behavior, ideology, and appearance. I chose to ignore it because I knew we would break up a few months later when I had to go back to my home country to finish my grad studies. So we went downtown so I could visit this shop I really wanted to go to but didn't have time for because I am a big people pleaser, and I wanted to do the activities and visit the shops they both wanted to go to. As we walked to the restaurant to meet my sister before going to the airport for my flight, I lightly complained that it was a shame I couldn't do most of the things I wanted to but that it was worth it. He was furious and screamed at me, blaming me by saying that if I wanted to do things, I should have asked. Given it was a hot and humid summer and that I am lazy and low on energy by nature, I didn't want to force myself to do things if I was too tired to appreciate, and also out of fear that my ex wouldn't enjoy it. My sister and I have similar tastes, so I knew she would be okay with anything I proposed. Blazing sun, humidity, anxiety, and guilt triggered another panic attack. He gaslighted me again, claiming he was doing it to help me stop being a people pleaser. He let me sit under the sun and told me not to move so he could see me, but he didn't look at me and stayed on his phone. I was a mess, with snot everywhere, my makeup ruined, and choking, while he did nothing even though a convenience store was behind us. I had to beg him to get me tissues, a mask, and a bottle of water. When I calmed down, he said the sight of me was disgusting because I had snot on my shirt, which I admit, wasn't graceful. We went to a nearby clothing store, and I picked a random shirt I had been eyeing during the trip. At the cash register, I naively thought he might pay for the shirt, but he said, "You made this mess, why would I pay?" Remember when I asked him to pay for groceries in a few restaurants? He didn't, or maybe he did just once. The reason was that he maxed out all his credit cards while still buying expensive stuff and claimed I was rich because I picked up more hours at work before my summer break. I didn't argue because I naively wanted a peaceful trip and by the end, had a plane to catch that same day, and so I didn't say anything. At the restaurant, my sister immediately noticed I had cried but bite down her frustration for my sake. At the airport, we acted lovey-dovey, and I felt sad to go back to my home country for 2 weeks before returning to my host country. I ignored my sister's warning and caring messages that day, and I regret it. During the fall semester, I was busy with my lab course and final classes, which had heavy and complicated content, while working an evening job and a morning job. I always tried to make time for him in the afternoons or let him sleep at my place before I returned for good in a few months. I avoided every fight to prevent breaking up before then, but his comments didn't stop. During our long-distance relationship, he told me he started meeting his high school friends again and went on a few trips to a friend's family lodge or another city. He said that during his lodge trips, he wouldn't have internet, but I didn't mind since it was only for 3 days. A female named F24 popped up a lot over the past months and during our trip to Asia. He told me she was his new best friend. One day, while cuddling and watching a documentary on his phone, an Instagram notification from her saying "I really miss you" popped up. I let it slide because I tend to say that a lot to my friends. I was actually happy he had new friends since he had none other than my friends, who became his, though they didn't like him and my ex always complained about his difficulty making new friends. Fast forward a few weeks, he complained that his new best friend has done SAW and refused to go to the hospital. She eventually went, but it was far from where we were, in the next city. As a student working in mental health, I immediately asked about the circumstances. Was she with someone? Did she ingest something that needed a bowel wash? Is she safe now? He refused to ask, saying, "I went through this, and SAS are personal." I eventually convinced him to call her as he was her best friend, and she might calm down while someone closer could reach her. He tried to quickly end the call but said, "Don't forget that I love you," at the end, and that was when I started to doubt. I immediately confronted him, asking why he said that while his girlfriend was here. He explained that, as a Latino, Spanish has 2 ways of expressing love unlike our language. Again, I was delusional and didn't get the clue or unconsciously chose to ignore it. He refused to invite her to our study sessions when I suggested it, needed more space, and her friends stalked my friends, but I didn't check their accounts. I eventually got sick and stayed with him and his mom. I had a high fever, felt weak, and was the worst I'd ever been due to my asthma I had since I was a kid. He didn't take care of me, his mom did. He refused to give me more blankets or his clothes, put the heater a little higher when his mom suggested it. One day, feeling dizzy, dripping with cold sweats and thirsty, I woke him up to ask for water and Tylenol. He said it was too cold and didn't move, so I had to get out of bed to get water. His mom saw how pale I was and saw me faint. After regaining consciousness, she said we needed to go to the ER to make sure I was okay. I went back to his room to wake him and tell him, but he just shushed me away to go back to sleep. His mom screamed at him, but all we got was a "got it." I was devastated but too weak to process anything more. She stayed the whole night with me and he only came to the ER when I was done to bring me breakfast but still hurried me out to go home. When we got back to his place, he played FIFA. I eventually returned to my home country. I was heartbroken because I had to say goodbye to my friends and all the memories of my early 20s, but I wanted to keep something from there, so I didn't break up with him. Come Valentine's Day, we planned a cute virtual date, but when I woke up from the nap we took together, I received an Insta DM asking if the person in my story was my boyfriend. I didn't tag him, and only his hair and living room background were shown. I went into delusional denial, refusing to realize he was cheating on me. I woke him up, having a panic attack after seeing all the proof. He denied everything, and when cornered, he admitted he downloaded a dating app 2 weeks before I went on holiday to my home country, and the day after my departure, he went on a date where he brought me a gift. I was lost. I told him all my insecurities and past relationship fiascos, and I had my fair share of cheating and betrayal. His reason for cheating? He has too much love in him and can't love just one person. I can understand. But what's so difficult about being honest with your partners instead of lying to them? Could he realize that not everybody is up for that? I was stupid enough to suggest a break but to end our relationship if he continued or had something going on with someone else. Soon after, I noticed a few Latino accounts stalking me and immediately understood he went back to his home country for Christmas and cheated on me there while I worked my off to buy him Christmas gifts. I confronted her directly, and she F22 told me they were dating way before Valentine's Day. I was shaking. When we negotiated the new terms of our relationship, I asked if there was another person, and he denied it. My heart dropped again. I felt betrayed by the whole humanity somehow. I warned her, letting her know what she was getting into if she stayed with him. She ignored it, and I have to acknowledge that I tried to forcefully make her realize that he was, at that very moment, trying to change my mind about breaking up. Later on I learned that he wanted to keep me because I do a lot of gift, as it is one of my love language. I was emotionally exhausted, and she told me I was right and would cut all ties. One day, his mom contacted me to ask if I had talked to him in the last 24 hours, as he was Mia. It turned out she was studying in the same city where he wanted to make our relationship official, and he was sleeping with her during his Mia period. I had enough. I told him, let's stop, we're hurting each other. He said, let me go home first. I had a long day, and we can talk about it. Again, I was stupid. I antagonized it even more as he stayed Mia and ignored all contact. When he finally got home, I told him I had enough. He drained all my life for the last year, and I not only wanted to end the relationship but everything. As he realized what I was implying, he told me, no, you can't do that. You can't put your death on my back. Funny enough, when I told him I couldn't see the purpose of living, he was speaking about himself, so I told him, cool banana, before hanging up. I sent all the screenshots to his new girlfriend of all the calls we had during their relationship, calls of 6 hours every day, and all his I love you and only you, and sent an SOS to my friends. I put myself on airplane mode and walked to a nearby bridge, but my friends stopped me. I got admitted to a psychological facility where I turned on my phone again to warn my friends from my home and host countries that I wouldn't be able to see or contact them in the next few days. But I saw their message, I can't believe you are doing this, when we did nothing. After a few months, I got better. I even met someone who's very dear to me, and I decided to book a flight to visit my friends in late summer. I soon learned from my friends that my ex and his new girlfriend got engaged a month after my saw. I judged them harshly because he always refused to marry young like his parents did. But anyway, it's their life, not mine. When I got back, I met my friends and eventually told them all the details about the cheating. They had already unfollowed him by then, but it was important for me to have them know the whole story. I won't lie, I avoided going downtown since a few of my favorite spots had become his favorite place. He didn't used to visit our old workplace, but I always did during our date because I wanted to see my friends, but apparently, he started coming in a lot. I found it quite stupid because the managers didn't like him, and the people he knew had left for other jobs. When I returned to my home country, I noticed a few transactions on my credit card through DoorDash. The thing is, these transactions were from my host country, and I was long gone. The only person who had my bank info was my ex. I contacted his mom and the first girl to see if they had experienced the same thing. I got ripped off for over 100, and I complained on Instagram and had to corner his mom to have him messaging me with a random account, telling me to stop spreading rumors, where he did use my credit card and cheated on me. Receipt has been shown. He admitted to using my card but claimed it was a mistake. The thing is, he had a habit of ordering food quite often and knew all his card numbers, so I think it was definitely not a mistake. While discussing it, I cursed him out and told him I hadn't realized how emotionally messed up I was to have stuck with his BS for so long. I also got money back for the plane ticket I paid for months ago. Since Valentine's Day, I had been stalked by several girls and received hate out of nowhere, so I just blocked and deleted things. I was accused of stalking. Well, if he wanted to think that way, I couldn't do anything. I blocked him again. After 3 months, I received messages and comments that made me snap, so I filed a complaint and had my friend drop it off at his workplace. For a while, I got nothing. But as I was trying to unblock someone, I saw his fiancée's profile picture, and I was in shock. The photo was of a cute decor I took during the Christmas season at my hometown shopping mall. It's a local event and isn't replicated in other cities in my country. The thing is, I only used that photo as my profile picture during Christmas on my private Twitter account. Nobody knew its existence, and I hadn't mentioned it to my friends. I followed no one, and no one followed me there, just ranting post. I freaked out, and my boyfriend suggested I talk to the first girl because she had become friends with He fiancé. He wanted to get her contact information and confront her because he had seen me at my lowest and wanted the best for me. Apparently, they cut off ties, but soon after, the fiancé changed her profile picture. I let it slide before blocking her again. Today, I just found a message on my RetroSpring where you can ask an anonymous prompt that mentioned details only all the people involved in this story would know, saying he still loves me and that he is sorry. I am not buying it at all. I just scoffed very loudly. Though it's weird they found my Stan account where I post what could be considered weird thing, I admit. Aren't they a little bit too scary and obsessed with me? TLDR got played by a narcissist and stalkers who continue to torment me.